Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and generally relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life will now enable you to use those same health and well-being effects at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com. All you need to do is quote the code PLANT24 when ordering.
So Green's team are based in Pinewood Studios, the UK's premier TV and film set location, and they do something slightly different when it comes to horticulture. They provide natural set dressing for many of the TV shows and films you're probably enjoying right now, from Wonder Woman to Star Wars. You may not think initially of plants when you imagine those shows, but they are often there. So today we are speaking to Justin and Gabor about how they make sets authentic, timely, and horticulturally accurate. What a fascinating job it must be. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, welcome. Good to see you here. I'm sorry, I got a sore throat at the moment, so I do sound like an 0898 number. So if there's anyone you need me to call, I can do that right now. So, yeah. So tell us about you guys and your backgrounds and how you then set up Green's team, basically.
So my sort of background is in sort of entertainment and events, and I fell into it many, many years ago when the nightclub industry kind of died of death. I was running under 18 events, kids' nights in clubs all over the UK. And then the recession hit in 2008-9, and then basically all the nightclubs were shutting down. And I got offered a job labouring on a film. So I said, yes, I'll do anything right now. So I started just digging holes and chopping down trees and helping out wherever I could. And that's basically how it started for me. We're here.
Yeah, my background is business related, forestry and landscape gardening and IT as well. So it's a mixture of background. And originally I was assistant to Pete, the owner of the company, back in the day. That's how I bumped into him in Hungary on a job called Aragon. And that's how the connection been made. And that point wasn't a company, but then we saw the idea, or he saw the idea, and then we carried it through. And this is where we are with it now, as being just a few of us, being this big company now.
Very cool. So how long have Green's team been actually running for? And can you each tell us what your roles are at Green's team?
So officially it's 2011. No, 2007. Yeah, 2007 officially.
Yeah.
It was incorporated, but it was going before that anyway. My role is operations director. I'd say I cover everything from sort of hiring people to finding landowners to just logistics, organising anything that needs to be done across the board, really. And I also do budgeting and buying and coordinating on films as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag.
Okay, so it's basically. Oh, sorry. Tell us about your role, Gabor.
No. My role is we call it HOD, of head of department, and I normally execute the works. So as the job's coming in, I get on the task and then get the jobs done. Pretty much, basically, what it is.
It takes about sort of 10 or 12 years to become a HOD, really, realistically, with the experience you have to sort of get there. So,
okay. Because basically you guys are putting together sets for big productions. Like this is this is probably something a lot of people have never heard of before, that this even happens. Like, so tell us about how all that goes together, and how did you have the idea to do that in the first place? And what was the first actual program or set that you then worked on, you guys?
Well, originally, Green's work comes from props. As the industry start to get bigger and then the acceptation go bigger, obviously props couldn't handle doing that big organic sets as originally maybe it was just a few pot plants, and then nowadays it's turned into caves and waterfalls and anything organic. So it doesn't always just plants, it could be anything organic, and that needed a completely different approach. It's more like a construction based between props and construction, somewhere manufacturing and landscape gardening. So that's where it's all come from, really. So Pete's got a background as well, the owner, as props, and that's where we kind of split out from, and took this avenue of work, really.
I suppose an issue, when it all started, because Green's team in a way have kind of amalgamated and created the kind of Green's department, because it wasn't a department, and we're still not fully recognized. We're recognized within the film, but we're not as recognized as we should be, because it's only been going the last sort of 15, 20 years. So it's still evolving, it's still growing. And I think from our perspective, because we cover every aspect of a green set, we don't just supply the plants, we actually, we have model makers who build trees, we sometimes help with designing the trees as well. So, and the landscaping, would be ground cover. It could be, pot plants, it could be the whole trees.
Structural engineering, metal work, welders. So actually it's a lot. It could be like squeezes and all sorts of silicone mold making as well. So it kind of goes quite a big repertoire we do.
Yeah, so it's very varied, basically. But
it sounds it. I can't imagine, like, the first time someone, there was a film, someone came to me and said, "Hey, we need this to look a certain way." How do you approach creating a set in the first place? You've worked on some huge films. How do you go about creating a set? Like, what kind of brief are you given beforehand? How does the process kind of start? If someone said to me, Star Wars, for example, we want you to, I'd be like, I have no idea where to start. Like, where does that come from?
So generally you're working with set designers and art directors who've got ideas and plans. Almost you have to image in a way you imagine a construction site, where you have like a guy comes with the plans, and then the brickie comes and lay the bricks. So it's pretty much there. You got the plans and you got the design ideas, and then we start. That's a long process, actually. It's not like a one-day process. It's a continuous process. We going there and back of being value for money as well, obviously, because this is a business end of the day. So we're coming up with ideas. We have the designers as well, maybe changing their ideas as well slightly to get more value for the money, what we can achieve, what's not possible to achieve, or what's just being ridiculous. But generally you go off a concept, and then we go away with that concept and design idea and drawings, and then start making it actually realistic, like how that can be achieved, and then what sort of trade we need to pull in to achieve all those so that's how it actually starts. So normally these guys start like 3-4 months before us. So they dream it all up, and then that comes to the script as well. Obviously, you have to play for the script as well, and what the storyline is, and what needs to happen in the movie. And then according to that, we try to make it real. What's on paper, that's basically what it is. And then it sets up as a construction site, pretty much. If you would come to a movie set, it's pretty much the same rules, regulations, and the look of it as well as people work. It feels like a construction site. Building a house development, for example, but instead of being a house, this might be a fake tree with a steel structure and real plants and a little landscape, and then hardcore and machines and diggers and dumpers and all sorts of things gets involved in that.
So you just said that you would have the script. So you know the script of things like massive big films before we know. You know what happens in like the biggest movies. That's cool.
Yeah, we have to because obviously we sort of have to see in a little bit in the future what they're planning to do. So the script will give the biggest idea of what they try to achieve and what they're necessary to have. Otherwise, the story doesn't make sense. So, and then obviously that script as well, it gets boring. People think it's really exciting, but you're going to read like 20, 25 scripts by the time it's halfway through the movie because that's constantly changing. But whatever you read first is going to be a different thing again as the movie goes along. Most of these movies got written while we're doing the movie, actually. So some of them is like written just halfway through and then they just write it as we go along. There's a lot of moving parts with actors availability to trades availability to space availability to financial issues, what dictates the actual movie, how it's going to run. And economy as well. Like now we have the strike, obviously. These are all affecting the story and the movie and the project, how it gets executed, really. Yeah.
And which set have you been most proud of over the years, would you say? Which is maybe the most high profile or the one that's the most memorable? Which ones would come to mind?
I think for me, doing Star Wars Force Awakens was because of the whole... It was such a secretive job and it was such a huge film at the time. And also very bizarre, kind of like hanging out with and seeing stormtroopers everywhere. For me, it was just a huge thing. And I think the film at the time was the biggest film around. And the anticipation for it coming out, the secrecy, that they, people were trying to fly over with drones, getting pictures of sets.
Really?
The security. I mean, I think they had I didn't get to read the script because very few people got to read the script, and they had to go into a room. Leave their phones outside and couldn't think anything of it, and just go and read a few pages and then come back out. So it was, and I think the overall anticipation of the film, and the fact that it was at the time a massively grossing film. So that was very memorable. And then more recently was Barbie, because that was just very challenging in different ways. But also, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and for the first time in my life, I was actually credible and cool because she got to watch the film before any of her friends. So for me, that was quite special as well. So I suppose it's different films for different things, really. But what about you, Wilson?
I love that. Do you know what? I do. When I watch the films or TV shows, I do look at the plants, but that's because we
can't help but notice them. Yeah,
so we do. But with the Barbie set, that must have been crazy to do, because it's all like, it's completely different, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's not just like another world, but how it's shot. Do you know what I mean? It's not like real world. Do you know what I mean? You really are in this kind of little Barbie bubble. That must have been really cool to try and work out what to do.
Yeah, it was tricky because we've been doing fake for fake. So to do plastic, what looks plastic. So that was the whole concept, and that was tricky to do because your mindset is being like natural and then try to make it look natural, but the request was to not be natural and make it really toy-like. So that was pretty much manufacturing all the way through with fiberglass and steel structures and foam leaves and cutouts and CNC cuttings, and so I was heavily manufacturing pretty much on that job. Yeah, it was very different than other jobs.
It's quite very. Normally, we try and avoid using artificial if we can help it, because we'd always rather use real. And for the first time ever, we couldn't use real plants. I think we probably spent less than £5,000 on real plants on the whole film. And some projects you could spend up to £500,000 on plants. So it's quite a very, very different sort of way of working, I suppose, and also, like I said, you had to have almost not bad artificial, but it had to look really plastic. Whereas normally you want artificial to look really good. It was just a whole different approach, and quite challenging in just the way we had to sort of bring it all together with the different methods. But I think as well because of we're always trying to make it all be as real as possible, like I said, and on this one, it completely flipped it the other way around. So
wow.
That sounds really cool. I wonder what Barbie's favourite plant would be.
Well, it's got to be a sunflower, or daisy, or something like that, isn't it? It's Barbie.
Yeah,
daisy.
Totally.
I like that, a daisy. I think a daisy is Barbie's favourite plant. There you go.
What's your favourite? What's your favourite one?
I think it's still Lord of the Rings, just because the complexity to it.
Yeah.
We were just able to use every trick in the book, what we've done over the many years. And I think that's possibly why, for me, it's just so we could just, it was pretty heavy. And then we were the main star of the movie as Green's department, because, Lord of the Rings set the mark back in the day with his movies about being about the nature in New Zealand and shooting this on stage to duplicate all of that on stage, and then put car parks and stuff for you in the imaging where they built these sets. That was pretty challenging, and that took a lot of skills of our trades and a team effort to pull it off. And it was just huge. So we had like a lot of toys. We played with cranes, and a lot of trades with us and model makers and street structures and design ideas. So we're designing stuff as well. So we do all CAD designs and drawings as well ourselves. So that was pretty interesting to be part of it. And then another thing as well, that the production was really lovely to work with, and they gave us a lot of free hand there, a lot of decision from us. So we weren't dictated as much. So they trusted us really well to make it look really good. So they just let us loose pretty much.
Amazing. Let loose for Lord of the Rings. I love that.
So it's the Power of the Rings that comes out on Amazon this year, and they released a trailer.
Oh, wow.
A little teaser trailer and a behind the scenes bit last week, 2 weeks ago.
I shouldn't say Lord of the Rings. It's Ring of Power.
Rings of Power,
The second season, is coming out now.
So, but if you see if anyone's listening to this and Googles the teaser trailer as well, it's pretty cool, and it's quite dark, but there's some amazing stuff there. And what's quite fascinating is when you see it come out, it's hard to realise that a lot of it is filmed in the UK, and also kind of like I said, you could be in the back of a film studio on a car park, and you walk in and see these fantastic green sets, and it still blows my mind to this day. You walk on and see what the crew creates, and it's just it's fascinating. It really is, and I'm never not blown away by it. So.
I love that. That's so cool. I'm going to look up the trailer now for sure. I'm going to try and view it in like a different way. Though I was like behind the scenes trying to like put it all together myself. Talking about kind of like the different eras, with regards to like Star Wars was far in the future, or, Lord of the Rings, or the new one is like perhaps in the past, or, all those different kind of eras. More recently, of course, we've had a lot of TV shows, for example, that are, like Victorian era, that kind of thing. How do you kind of research the plants for different kind of eras in the film? Because you wouldn't want to put like, I'm just looking around at my houseplants now, I put like a really modern, trendy houseplant on a Victorian set, for example. How do you kind of go about researching what plants to use for different eras?
Well, it depends how necessary that is, because it depends on the shot, the day, the frame, because you might get away with it. You're not going to notice. Like there are movies where it depends on the picture. If the plant or the set plays the part of describing an era, then yes, you just research, and research, and then just check what was available that time, what was in the country, where is it originated from, what to spell that time. But it could be that is not that. It could be a cheat as well. It could be a plant look-alike. So you just as audience, you're not going to notice. That's kind of comes down to the decision of, are the audience going to notice? Is it important for that scene to be that, or is it not necessary? Because it might be just a flash, and then you as audience, you're going to be more concentrating on either an action fight or a dramatic scene. And then the background is just a blurry background, just a green fuzz, then it's not necessary to spell it. But saying that, we had jobs where we had to like build greenhouses to the right area, and then you definitely research that those plants shouldn't be in there, or those plants should be in there, or it can be in there.
There was a film recently, I think it might have been on Netflix, and it was Lindsay Lohan. It was she was in Ireland. I can't remember what it was called. Something like Luck of the Irish or something. I don't know. She was off getting married, but then she had gone off to this stone where St. Bridget had brought her wish true, but her wish was to marry the bad guy. Anyway, one of those funny, silly stories. But there was a ton of stuff online about how horticulturally inaccurate the plants were around her.
Oh.
I thought, well, I did see all the plants, but I was kind of like, but this is a real kitsch film. I think it's meant to look a little bit wild and crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like it's kind of meant to look like it doesn't all fit. We're talking about a fairy tale almost. So I can't really remember now what the plants were, but it was kind of like rhododendrons in the middle of like this place in Ireland where they wouldn't be or whatever. I thought it looked really cool. And it was one of the films that I looked at and I actually noticed all of the plants. So I was like, I think that looks really cool. And then there was a ton of stuff. But if they're not accurate, do you know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with that?
I think a lot of it really is down to the production and where you're working as well, because we're not plant purists in films because you can't be. If you've got a hero shot and you've got something that must have that, then you'll get it in. But I think in general, it is more about the aesthetics and the look of the shot that they want. And also, if you're working on a site that is, for example, a triple SI site, and you can't bring anything in there. So if you can't bring it, and you have to use artificial, for example, well, then you've got no choice but to use artificial because you can't bring anything in case of cross-contamination. So it just depends on you're working. And I think, like as Gabor said earlier, it's more about the kind of, the right look and what the art department wants and what the designer wants. And the director, what they're happy with. So it hasn't, like we've done so many jungles where you've had lots of English native plants in the background, and you will have more tropicals in the foreground. But no one's ever going to see that because you're shooting it in a woodland in Buckinghamshire, not in the Maldives or somewhere. So it's just kind of working with and creating the right look. But if you've got a serious period piece, and I think you'll have to have the right things. But we are guided a lot by the art department and designers.
And season as well.
Yeah, season,
many times they've been asking us to do summer in winter, that's a tricky one to pull off, especially if they want things in flower and bloom and being period. In Windsor, for example, in the middle of winter, and then be shooting it for summer. That's a bit of a tricky one to be that accurate. I mean, we could again, but then is it again value for money? Is it worth spending 150 million on 2 plants just to be accurate for the sake of it, or where they're going with it? But that again dictated the situation, dictates a lot of things, and then.
I guess you have to meet it somewhere in the middle, really, because they can't change the script just because of a plant. Yeah,
we always have meetings and we flag these things, so he's not aware of it. And then sometimes they come across a situation like this, and we flag like that is not accurate. But then they can overrule us, and they say, "But be happy with that one," and then just make it look right, make it look good, and then as the clients for us, we do whatever it takes.
I think as well. I think with our sector, it takes a certain mindset to work in the film industry because nothing is what it seems, and sometimes the expectations they want to require and the timescales are completely ridiculous for what they need. But you have to deliver.
Always.
So logically, you'd think, well, let's shoot. Summer in summer or winter in autumn or winter, and they don't, and they reverse it around because it could be cast availability. We had a film a few years ago where we ended up buying plants to fill 3 stages, whereas if they'd amended the shooting schedule, we could have moved the plants from stage 1 to stage 2 and then stage 2 to stage 3 and one load of plants. Instead, we ended up spending an awful lot more, over £1 million on plants, instead of say 4 but that was sort of because of the shooting schedule and what they wanted, and there was no way of changing that because of actor availability or whatever. So it had to be that way. But we were like, but we could do this for half the price. But obviously that option wasn't there. So it's
there's a lot of other moving parts. Yeah.
Oh, there is.
There's a lot of moving parts. I mean,
you can imagine.
But people don't understand that our life, our daily routine changes per minute. So the best if you can the best react to things like as quick as possible. Like literally my job can now, as I'm sitting on a job, can change now till tomorrow, and then a completely different thing tomorrow, what been planned. And that causes all the way domino effect with labor, with vehicles, transport. Everything can change, and then you can do really.
There's a lot going on. One recently that really made me laugh was Bridgerton. I've never watched Bridgerton, I might add, but someone was saying how the wisteria is in flower all year round.
Is it really?
It's always in flower in winter and summer and spring. And I'm kind of because obviously they had to shoot the whole series within this certain time frame when the wisteria was in bloom. But I think that's really funny.
Because most of the times movies don't shoot in story order. So obviously you're not going to put a location in 4 times in a year. You're just going to go there and shoot all the scenes out at the end part, at the beginning part, and the middle part. And it's not always have time between takes to take the flowers off and then put the flowers back on and change around. Especially on smaller production, you won't have the capability and the money behind it to do all of those things.
Fun.
So on a practical level, like, because some of this is obviously arranging of plants, some of it kind of halfway meets floristry, I imagine, as well. Like, how do you keep things fresh? And what about drainage as well? How, is the crew needing to be there all the time or every day? Or like, how does the installation work?
Well, it depends on the plants and depends on the set. Some of the sets doesn't need much maintenance. Sometimes we allow replacement, and sometimes that's a cheaper option to, let them die and then just replace the whole thing again and again and again. Or if we have people maintain sets and we have irrigation system, if we're on stage, we got a grow light system on. The drainage system, as you said, is all set up to maintain. We done Jungle Book where we actually done a proper misting system, almost like you would walk in the Kew Gardens, and you'd see the same setup there as well to get the humidity up. Because we had to keep the sets up for that long, it was just worth doing it with grow lights and proper setups. It was in the middle of winter as well, so we've been using tropical plants in -6 degrees. So even that was a tricky part to offload them from lorries to stage, so you don't get stressed and cold. Getting it out, like you hit lorry onto a stage, so we had to seal the lorries onto the stage doors, so they don't get this cold draft, because then they start dropping leaves. But no, it should be fine in a garden center because they have the time for the leaves to regenerate, but we don't have those times, so we can't hurt the plants. They have to be intact. That's, misting system, as I said, grow light system, checking pH, checking acidity in the soil and all that sort of stuff. So we have like plant experts as well, obviously, looking after this and keep an eye on all those things. If anything changes, we giving the plants the supplements, or the care needs to happen, really.
I think as well with it is it's all fine. You can make the most beautiful set, and then one sad day the film crew come along, and we always have a line in the budget called set repair from shoot crew, because what they do is they just want and it's one sort of thing between the crew of like, it drives you all insane, because you'll spend sort of sometimes 6 weeks, 6 months, or 3 months working on a set. It'll look pristine and lovely, and you'll get 150 people converge around the set that day to work on it, and someone's got to get his wire here, or light over there, this over there, that's over there, and they just trash all your good work, and then we have standbys who have to come in and try and replenish that and refix it, and we always have a pile of plants sat on the side ready to replace stuff, because someone's either you just stepped on it, not realised, or not respected or appreciated the greens aspect of the set. So it's very fulfilling, but can also be very frustrating.
I would cry if a plant got stepped on. I'd cry if I'd been doing it for 6 weeks. I'd probably have like a diva meltdown or something.
Well, you got to get used to this in movies, because that's pretty normal.
Toughen up, Ellen.
I'd be so sad. I'd be like, I've been working on this for 6 weeks. What's coming up for you guys next? Have you got anything exciting in the pipeline that you can tell us about?
Probably can't say.
I don't know what we can talk about really, but there's lots of stuff coming out. My Lady Jane's coming out, which we did quite a bit on that, which is there's a trailer come out the other day on that. Knuckles is out at the moment. Lord's Power of the Rings is coming out. I think we're on.
I'm not sure we can say much of the future projects without them releasing or them saying it's happening. I'm not sure we're allowed to. Some of the projects very secretive, even to the public, to know that is actually happening.
Right.
We're doing we're doing Dior are doing a big fashion release. If you Google Dior Drummond Castle, they are releasing their new collection in June.
Okay.
And we currently have a strong team up there who are basically creating the catwalk and the plants, the flowers, and dressing areas for 500 privileged guests being flown in for Dior to release their 2025 collection.
That's because plants are just so hot right now, aren't they? You know, they're being used a lot more in fashion, in all different industries. I feel like plants are mainstream now. It's really a magic time.
I think as well. I think the fact that the greens in films has grown so much over the years because let's say we have become our own department in how it works, and I think there's more awareness of greens. Whereas before, like I said before, you just say, "Oh, let's get the prop man to do it."
Yeah.
Whereas now, greens is his own standalone thing in films. So
and I guess it's just the whole world as well is a bit more nature minded, isn't it? With environment and how people are the new generation as well. I think people appreciate nature more, and I think these companies as well seeing all that and then try to introduce and it makes a set as well. If you think about movies like I'm bringing Lord of the Rings again, just because of the nature, the original movies. They were so nature-minded. It almost starts like a National Geographic with all these big wides of New Zealand. That kind of really, really helps selling some of the fantasy movies or some of the pictures. And they just nice thing to look at. I mean, who doesn't like looking at nature? And I think that's just what they're using as well as a prop. Yeah, I mean,
I think as well environmentally, it's changed a lot as well because. When I first started in the industry, we would generally a lot of the plants would just be at the end of a film; they would be just chucked away. Whereas now, sacrilege. So we're very fortunate to have a good network of charities and companies who we work with on a regular basis. So when we finish a film, we donate, I'd say 90 to 95% of our plants to other charitable organisations. Happy to offer more if anyone wants them, if anyone's listening out there. So because when you buy such a large quantity of plants on a film, they would supply us with an articulated lorry or curtain cider, 18-ton curtain cider, and we would just fill it with plants. But not many places can take, like if you've been doing, say, a tropical, if you've got, I don't know, Strelitzias, which is sort of 6-7 feet tall, you can't really put them in your living room, or alocasias that are sort of, again, 7, 8, 9 feet tall. It's finding places that can take the plants. And in the past, we've given stuff to Paradise Wildlife Park, Chester Zoo. We've had quite a few bits of us, Crocodile World and places like that. So butterfly farms, anywhere that sort of needs them. So it's that's been a real big thing because, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, no one really cared. And the film industry is a beautiful industry instead, in general. And I think it's been a real nice change because people really do care, and so do we. It's a nice feeling to know that you've actually been able to sort of give all those plants a new lease of life in some way, and also it saves the film on costs because we're not filling up skips that charge you by the ton to take rubbish away. So in that respect, it's been a huge change and also very fulfilling for the crew because you feel like you're giving back a little bit, and the films are happy. It helps the environmental footprint, and it's a win-win all round. So
that's really good. It was like I was sitting here thinking I've got one more question. What happens to all of the plants? But you've just answered that. So that's really cool. And just before we finish up, because it's been really interesting, I have one question. Is there one plant that tends to get used the most? Is there one? Yeah. Is there one plant that you're like, oh, here we go again with this plant?
Rhododendron.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Rhododendron is a good plant. That's kind of good for everything, and it's easy to source. It's a hardy plant. No one wants it in their forest, so it's just quite easy source. And it can be a jungle, it can be a garden. It's got flowers if you want it. It doesn't have flowers if you don't want it. It's got a structure. It can be small or big. I mean, that's my go-to plant, really.
Okay, so I think now all our listeners keep their eye out for films and see what they can see if they can spot an overuse of rhododendron.
Yeah, definitely.
But I actually just said that, didn't I? About that film on Netflix that I was watching that had the rhododendrons in the background. Like literally, that's the plant that's used.
I think it's what you'll find if you do a scary forest and you've got and you're creating sort of structures. It's great for that as well. Just the kind of all the branches and under the canopy. are fantastic. But it's been frustrating for us as well, because I think that they've now, you can't import root ball rhododendron anymore.
Yeah.
So we're very fortunate to have a huge network of estates and private landowners that we deal with that enable us to dig them out locally and bring them in. But it was definitely frustrating when that came in, because we would just buy them in by the lorry load. And utilise them.
It's ponticum, isn't it? Is it rhododendron ponticum that can't be imported? Is it specifically that?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're trying to remove them at all the National Trust sites and stuff, or trying to manage them, aren't they? Because they're becoming invasive.
I mean, generally, it's much more trickier recent years to import plants anyway.
In general,
for sure.
It's not much complex, and much more paperwork needs importing stuff as it before. We just could have moved stuff over the border.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. See, when you, like, the plant passports came in and all that kind of thing, you don't really think that how wide that affects not just the industry in so much as, garden centres and nurseries selling stuff, but it impacts so much more, doesn't it?
Yeah, heavily. Yeah. And it puts days and extra monies onto it. So the cost goes up, time goes up. And then it's not just importing, it's exporting. We do movies outside of the UK, so it's the other way around. If you want to move our stuff somewhere, that's just as tricky, if not more tricky, I think. Making it's possibly easier than taking stuff out from here is almost harder.
I think it's right. It's more, when it first came in, it was an absolute nightmare, because if you're in a garden centre, you can bring your plants in and they can sit there for 3 or 4 days and be fine. Whereas if we've got a set shooting on the Wednesday and the plants come in on the Monday, then you get a phone call saying you can't move your plants until a DEFRA inspector has come and inspected them for 24 hours. Then you wait and then no one turns up. And you waste 24 hours. And a few occasions where we took a few, when it first came in, we were like, let's just move the plants on the set. And literally we had to rush onto the set, pull them off, put them back on the trolleys, take them back to the place, and then get them inspected, because they would say they were going to come, and I'd say one out of sort of 20 times they'd actually turn up. So that's got a lot better now, thank God. But it was an absolute nightmare when it first started.
Oh gosh, working with plants is a bit like working with kids and animals, right? Thank you both very much for being here on the podcast. It's been
thank you.
Yeah, it's been interesting, hasn't it, Michael?
Yeah, where can people find out more about you guys? Do you put anything on Instagram? Or I know you probably don't put things on until the films are out, but
we don't share too much on it, but we do have a Facebook and Instagram page. It's just greens-team, greens-team, and the website is greens-team.com. Cool. Bits on there.
Unfortunately, we can't share everything with the public, obviously, beyond the NDA stuff. So there are things we're just not allowed to share.
But
no worries.
Information is on there. Sorry, the basic information on the website. If anyone's interested in getting involved or wants plants off a film, or wants to come and join our team or anything like that, just check out the website.
Super.
Okay, my application will be in this afternoon.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast today, guys. We really, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
The tranquil, soothing, natural sound of flowing water. Listening to it has been shown to lower your heart rate and blood pressure and gently relax your whole body. Combining the magical sound of cascading water with the beauty of plants, Hydria Life now enable you to enjoy these same health and well-being benefits at home or in the garden. Get 10% off their rechargeable Hydria fountain at hydrialife.com when you quote code PLANT24 on ordering. That's PLANT24 on ordering.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.